Join Dalton and Jacob as they discuss the ever-changing world of trading card games. TCG Buzz starts now.
What's up, Buzz Squad? It's your boy Dalton, back at it again with the sick ginger.
I am very under the weather, guys, so please bear with me. But even though I'm sick and my nose is running and I don't feel good and I just want to curl up in bed, I'm doing it for you. For you.
And there goes everybody watching. All right, so today we're going to be talking about this irregular list that just got updated for Japan, which is most likely going to be for us, as Jacob's playing the live stream on his phone, and I can hear it.
Oh, no.
All right, Jacob, so how do you want to do this? How do you want to do this?
Well, first, I guess, if you don't know, there's an update to the Irregulars list. It exists. It is currently not on the English website, which, let's talk about that. That's kind of weird, isn't it? I was kind of hoping for a moment, like, it was because they were going to give us our own list, but I don't see that being likely because it's Bushiroad. Even though we've asked before in previous irregular list videos for them to split, into two different formats, because our format's not the same as Japan, and, what's happened there isn't necessarily the same as here.
Kind of changing in Japan. They just have access to a few more cards than us.
Also, their cards, are out earlier, a lot of the cases, so they get more time to play test with this stuff before they get hit than we do.
It just makes it easier for us, because then the ban list gets in place because Japanese players break everything, and then we just kind of come through. Ooh, that $2 Atlanta or a bust, baby.
Fantastic. Jacob's a little low energy today. Sorry about that, guys. Let's talk about timing. Did you expect a regulars list update now?
Honestly,
they had to do it to get in, during January memes.
I guess so. I didn't, but I'm kind of not surprised either. I'm like, we're about to get new decks and so forth, and somebody's going to find something that breaks them. So it was only going to be a matter of time before, Bushi tried to stay ahead of the curve, which is nice to see at the same time that they're trying to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I'm glad this update isn't coming, halfway through the Springfest season, and they're just getting it out of the way now. That being said, I'd say as far as things go, it is a pretty minor revision to the list. It's more stuff changed than last time. Last time was 2 cards that were altered on the list.
Right.
And this time we have 4 to talk about, right? 4? 5? 4? 5. 5.
Cinco, see.
Yeah, 5 cards. Just look at our thumbnail for this. You'll see. 5 cards. I was not very happy with the last update due to, in my opinion, one of my favorite cards in the entire game getting hit.
Well, of course it is.
Of course.
Mr.
Yes.
Godpunk over there.
But not just for Godpunks. I argued that it's a good card to have in the game. Yes, it's kind of cancerous when your opponent can chain into multiples of them after they've done their drawing, but I think it's something that can, in some situations, be used to...
Holy shit. Ooh, thank you for the money there, Saber Knight, 1993, to help with Atlanta from Michael. All right. All right.
The thing that threw me off was we never get .99s,
Yeah, that kind of threw me off. I wanted to say 15, but it was like, oh, no, that's not 15.
I think overall the changes were a positive one. No cards were removed from the ban list, which I was actually quite surprised by. I think.
Well, what did you think was going to get removed off the ban list? Or my bad, irregular list.
I think some of the cards that are on the list specifically for Thunder Empire or Chaos can probably at this point move off, as those decks are no longer big featured decks. And I think doing so, I'm not sure which card specifically, might be a good thing to help them keep their status as rogue decks. Kind of like how Yu-Gi-Oh's ban list. You occasionally get like old archetypes cards that were super broken for Abyss. Man, my brain stopped. Or Dragon Rulers and stuff like that that slowly come off the list as they're no longer relevant.
Fair enough. It's Burning Abyss, by the way.
Abyss, yep. It popped in my head right as you said it. Ugh.
And I don't think anything for Dragon Rulers has actually come off the list either. But that's a different.
Didn't Monarch Stormforth get? We're not.
That's Monarch.
Oh yeah. So I think I'm pretty okay with the five cards on this list.
You really want to nullify that fourth one?
Oof, yeah.
That fifth one, I mean.
Let's. I think it's time to go through them individually.
All right. You got the list over there?
I do have the list over here.
All right. So give us that first card, man. Let's see what this first card is.
We're going to start with banned cards.
Thanks, CD commentaries.
I got that ban hammer on them. Obstruct. Uh-oh, is this going to be Jacob ranting about Obstruct for 20 minutes again?
Well, let me give my thoughts first. I don't know how the meta in like other areas are and so forth with Obstruct itself, but I know here we don't really use it that often. One copy always seems fine. I always like to get that little nudge in with it as well. But I can still see why it is kind of I don't want you to do anything, especially with some of the decks like Dimension Dragons. Even though I don't run it in my deck, that deck profile is coming soon. I finally have it where I want it. It doesn't run it because of my own personal choice. But, I don't know what the other metas are looking like exactly. But I do know in Japan, you always see it. So it's probably like a 99% seen in every single deck out there. So it might make sense, however they try to formulate out what gets banned and so on and so forth.
Talking about that makes me think about one thing. I thought when I first heard, hey, there's going to be a new Irregulars list and hadn't seen the cards, I thought they'd be hitting Dimensional Dragons. Honestly, I really did. It's the deck that dominated Worlds, did really well, and it's a really popular but expensive deck that's going to continue to see a lot of play, right?
Right.
And knowing Bushi, I expected a hit or two to it. Not anything major, but some things just to slow it down a little bit. And if anything, the opposite happened. The deck has absolutely no hits on this list. None. And two of the decent counter cards against the deck both got hit. Obstruct being one of them. Obstruct you can... Dimension Dragons like their draws.
Yes and no. They more tutor out everything, really, if you really look at it, especially with the two main cards for the deck now. Drawing is still there, obviously, but I don't think that's too big of a problem. And either way, most players are running Disturb Hand in the main deck for Dimension Dragons, so, I don't know.
Maybe that's true, but I'm sure you can already guess what the other one I'm going to say that kind of makes Dimension Dragon slightly better is, but we'll get to that one later. Are you ready to move on to the next card? Overall, I think Obstruct, I don't like it. I think it's just because it's a feels bad card, but, and I stand by that, but whatever. The battle's been won,
I mean, lost? Because you've lost?
Yeah, I lost it, but Bushi won the battle of their own card game.
I hope so. So what's the next card, huh?
The next card is banned in all flags. Black Sage Burn.
And see, this is where Bushi's 200 IQ play comes into mind. Because you didn't really understand it at first until I brought it up to you. The whole fact of, yes, the card's not once per turn. It's kind of become a theme with a lot of cards as of late, kind of towards the end of X and obviously basically all of Ace, that monster effects aren't really once per turn anymore. and it's just slowly turning into, let's see how much I can spam it, and we'll just kind of limit the cards that help you spam it type.
So in this case, there's a specific deck you pointed to with an example of a loop involving this card.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Well, it's very simple. So the effect on the card is you drop a hand card, and you can either bounce or destroy a card on the field. So it could be your field or your opponent's field. And there just so happens to be a deck coming out in Golden Garga called Cursed Dragons that has an item that can rest itself to throw a card underneath your opponent's flag. So why not just bounce it? And so the second time that you use it, now you're going to be drawing a card. So you're basically fueling the effect now just by doing it. So it's just an entire loop as long as you have the gauge, because I'm pretty sure it's still a gauge to equip. I have to double check the card or something like that.
Yeah, I believe
You can reaffirm. But yeah, that from what I've been hearing or seeing on Facebook, it's like you can go like 15 cards into your opponent's flag and then like pass. GG. Nice playing.
So this, I did not plan to talk about this, but I just now realized something
What's
as
that?
you were talking about this card, and it was our interaction of, I don't know why this card is on this list. I honestly didn't. I did not know about this. I was not paying attention to Cursed Dragons. I can see why it would be banned because, you know, it is a spammable ability that isn't once per turn, but I was wondering the specific reason. I think Bushiroad really needs to explain why cards go on the list. Actually show the reason directly why. To give credit to somewhere, the Dragon Ball Super card game, they do a fantastic job of explaining why they're eroding something or why they're banning something. And you know what? They've put tons of effort into it. They've done actual press releases to tell us why a card's getting banned or something. You know, I think Bushiroad should do at least a little of that. I'm not asking them to go that far, but maybe give us a paragraph on why each card is on the list.
Paragraph, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. But didn't they do that with the last irregular list update, in the English one at least, that they kind of gave like a small summary on why these cards are being hit and
The last one was only Obstruct and Tomo no Shin.
Yeah, but still cards being hit or getting off the list. Didn't they give some sort of summary on it? I don't remember exactly.
I don't know. I think it could be a really good tool for them to educate their players on, one, how their list works and the criteria for what should be on the list. Because we've been flying blind with this, going, oh, we don't really know what Bushiroad considers good enough.
I get your pun.
It was actually unintentional. Thanks. We don't really know why Bushi puts things on the list. We don't know what the threshold is. And sometimes we feel cards are over the threshold and aren't banned, or under the threshold and are unreasonably restricted. But I think a lot of that would be alleviated if they, set out more of the rules and understanding for that.
Yeah, I could see that. That's fair enough.
At the very least, tell us, is this card banned for something that currently exists in the meta, or is it you're banning it because you're afraid it's going to be too strong in the future? Which our next card on the list could possibly apply to both of those, as well as the one we just talked about, because it's another spammable, not once per turn ability. That card being, also banned in all flags, Crystal Dragon Adamant Quartz.
Ah, yes. Let me recycle my quick wit from drop and gauge and draw.
First thing I'd like to ask you, how do you feel about the fact that, as someone who's been interested in Wild Dragons since the very beginning, they have never done well ever, and now one of their cards is banned in all flags?
It's kind of interesting. I know I don't run it at all in my build of LDOs. I haven't seen anyone running it, so I don't know if it was going to be a problem or something, and it might have been like maybe Bushi asked some players, like, once this set comes out, what would you do for this deck to kind of keep it up with them or something like that? Something like that might have happened. So, I don't know. I can see where it can be utterly stupid, but...
I mean, it's definitely one of those cards that would only get stronger with time.
Of course, that's what happens with a lot of cards, and some cards not so much. Great example, Gambit. Got amazingly...
Gambit was a bulk card for 3 years.
Bulk card, and then X came along, and then Ace really pushed it.
I remember, like, right halfway through 100, I ran Gambit in a 72 Pillars deck, and some of the people who were in our playgroup that no longer are like, why would you run Gambit? That's a bad card. That's where we're at just a couple years ago. Cards like that get stronger as time goes on, and I think this guy is one of them.
I see. So Drago Bancho said that it was in a Dragon Ein deck in Japan that infinitely draws with the LDO card.
Which is not healthy.
Of course, it's not healthy. Infinite draw, gauge and draw and intention, obviously.
But to look back a couple years from now and see what other cards that have since been released would be broken with this guy. Because I'm sure there will be a couple.
Obviously. So, and I noticed that Bushiroad's kind of going away from marauding cards and so forth. They still do it, obviously, for like minor things, but like some of these things could have been changed. Like my biggest thing with Menjo. Why wasn't his ability a named ability? Right there, that kind of stops the whole Menjo thing. But I digress.
It was too strong with that. They could have just labeled it as only working with returning toilet cards.
Then it wouldn't work as a dual card. But
yeah.
I digress.
You have a good point there. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets he's a hero world card too.
I'm pretty sure that he was in some type of loop in that deck too, but that's besides the point. But that's a great example of what they could have eroded or something, or what he should have just been printed as, or other cards that initially aren't good at all. So let's say Lattice or something, just plain old Lattice we're talking here, not the Chaos one, the one that's actually banned. Let's say eventually Wild Dragons get good. When that will happen, I will be the first to let you know. And then eventually it just becomes too OP, busted, like, because Gauge won't be an issue, Life won't be an issue type deal, and discarding's no issue because you can draw a bajillion cards. So
naturally over time as the game progresses, and this is really true for all card games, high-cost cards get easier and easier to play as time goes on. I mean, Spell Nulls have finally gotten to the point where they're reasonable to play.
Right.
Gauge is not that bad anymore, whereas like in Season 1, that was astronomical.
Right.
That was maybe a third of all the gauge you'll have in the entire game dedicated to one Spell Null.
So, speaking of Spell Nulls, do you just want to jump into that?
It's too good of a segue to not go to it next. Let's do it.
You got the list.
Oh, no. Are you saying I have to read its name?
Yes.
I
don't have the list to even attempt.
The world players weep as Demon Way Sakurafubuki, I'm sorry, got hit on the list. If you don't know, this is Katana World Spell Null, which costs 2 life to nullify a spell. I have always been in the opinion that it is the best spell null in the game, so I can see it, but first of all, I'm pro spell null. I think spell nulls are healthy and interactive for the game.
Then stick with Magic World. Why are you worried about it?
I'm not.
There.
It does kind of suck, especially since, like, I'd be a little more okay with it if they had some good alternative cards that were maybe a little weaker. But, like, what do they have for spell nulls? They got that one size 1 monster, right?
You don't count that.
No, you really shouldn't. And you have, what? Secret Sword...
Star Crusher.
Star Crusher, that's the one. Also not really a good card. Like, it's a good card, but the problem is what you're sacrificing. Like, value-wise, it's not a bad card, but you also have to run Lethal Formation or Super Lethal Formation, which, is essentially 2 cards in deck per every 1 card, you're playing. So your deck space is part of the cost, and it gets bricky if you draw into the Star Crusher and not into the Lethal Formation.
Yeah. But nobody's going to run Star Crusher, in my honest opinion. If you are, then you're playing ninjas, OGs. Secondly, I hate to see the card go because that means I have to change my water deck. But it makes sense. Today's game kind of says, what is life? So 2 life for the cost is kind of, in a sense, cheap. So it makes a lot of sense.
I think this is the one I probably object to the most because I think it's a good card, but I think it's a healthy card for Kachina World, which, to be frank, Kachina World has a long history of not doing super well competitively. There have been several seasons at this point where Kachina World just didn't do anything, and this is one of the best cards in their arsenal. The problem being, it is a little too useful. I think Electro Deities relied on it a little too much. Also, Kachina Garga has access to it, which is a little scary. I don't think Blade Dancers even run it, do they?
Yes, they do.
I'm sure they run it, but it's not like as essential to them, I don't think.
It is for monster protection.
Yeah, I suppose. It is. It's straight up a good card. Is it a limit to 1, what I would have done to it? No. 1 is... Bouchard has proved to us again that they will not do limits of 2 or 3. And I find that really weird, because I think this is one of the big cases where that would have been appropriate.
I'd have to disagree with you on that. I think 1's the perfect choice without outright banning the card completely. Just because, if I remember correctly, there is a way to grab Demon Ways out of the drop. So, already right there. And is it a ninja art?
No, it's a Demon Way.
Just a Demon Way? I had to make sure, because I know there was the bounce spell that's also a ninja art that you can search. So, there's gonna, and maybe Bushi's future-proofing this for when maybe Demon Ways do get like a searching set spell or something like that. Probably not. Don't take it in the wrong way. But it's just future-proofing at the same time.
I think there's straight up one reason. The reason it was able to get away with having a 2 life cost over a 2 gauge cost, which is strictly better because life is a resource you start the game with, whereas gauge you only start with the 2 versus 10, and life, losing life does not matter if you win the game, right? It's kind of that old argument from Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Of life points don't matter, right?
Yeah.
If you had a card that said in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pay 7,999 life points, you win the game, it would be broken,
Right.
The reason I feel it was more justified was because for the longest time, Kachina World's ability to heal and increase their life was absolutely the worst of all worlds. It was like their one big thing. I mean, it was crazy when they got like a card in late season 2 or something that gained 1 life. It wasn't a thing that the world did, back when every world didn't feel exactly the same. So I think that kind of kept it in check. In decks and worlds where you can gain 5 life, for nothing, that would be way unbroken. 10 life is a thing. But in a deck that at most gains 1 or 2 life in the entire game, it's a lot more of a cost. But that's not the case anymore. Purely, I think, yes, Garga's probably a little bit of a problem child. Blade Dancer's a little bit. But I think purely the reason it's on this list is because of Electro Deities. Because they have so much draw power and so much life gain that it makes its cost and consistency just totally, off the charts. The cost doesn't matter anymore to them. And the consistency is ridiculous. Having it at 4 in a deck that draws tons of cards like that, you're going to see it.
I agree. Electro Deities were probably the problem. If I remember what the new Korigane is going to be doing. I believe it gains you a life and a gauge or something like that. So more life gain in another Katana World deck. So eventually it would catch up and all that good stuff. So
I feel most bad for the rogue or old strategies for Katana World. You know, water.
don't remind me.
What is it called? Japanese Blade Beasts. Poor Blade Beasts. They don't ever catch up.
We really just call them Japanese
ninjas.
blades.
You know, Skull Warriors. Rest in peace to all of them. Onis even. Everyone, you know, got hit. For, you know, that kind of sucks for those decks. I mean, sure, most of them aren't ever going to see relevant meta play again. Or ever in some other cases. But I do feel bad for those players who now have to go and take their beloved water deck and remove arguably the best card in the deck.
Excuse me? Best card in the water deck is clearly the Water Queen herself. Don't mistake that. All right? Mr. Sicky Masixon.
I gotcha, man.
So what's the next card on the list?
The next card on the list is actually the last card on the list. Like I said, not a big update to the list. That card being Overturned Black Death Dragon Abigail. And this is one of those cases where if you weren't paying attention closely to Worlds, I don't think you would have got it. Can you explain what's going on?
OTK Black Dragons. You know, they're a thing, you know. Howlbringer really brought it up. I don't know exactly who played them, but I know they made top 8 at Worlds, so. And Bougie probably looked at them and were like, huh. That Overturned Abigail's pretty strong.
It's also a case of, future-proofing, I think. Because the thing holding that card back from being broken is the fact that, you know, there is some setup involved for it cost-wise, and it's an overturn skill, so it's, you know, immediately limited to once, right? But still, essentially giving yourself an extra turn, and in fact, in an even better way than just doing it, right, is really, really, really good. Like, really, 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 really strong.
Fair, but Bushi already did something about that with the rule change at the start of Ace, where you can only have one extra turn.
Well, they can
each turn chain.
Yeah, but they can only get one because of the overturn, right?
Exactly.
It is a really strong ability, though. I mean, most of the time, I'd assume if you're getting the skill off, no matter what you're playing, you're probably going to win. Just you gain so much value from essentially a full extra turn, you're going to win. Especially with how easy it is to deal damage these days. You know, with how easy it is to go boom, 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 boom. Oh, you're dead. In one turn, getting an extra one is kind of crazy. Now, it's not technically giving you an extra turn. It's more like, you know, shutting down your opponent's entire turn. But same.
Well, it's basically, it goes at the start of your opponent's turn and their turn. So you'll still get Sentence of Curse off if, say, you're playing Cursed Dragons. Even though I never saw Overturn Abigail making it into the deck. I thought it'd be too, what's the word? Cloggy for the deck. But obviously still have to help Will do some testing with it and so forth to really see if that's the case. And obviously Overturn Black Dragons himself just getting more and more powerful with age, and eventually Venom Dragons or Swamp Dragons or whatever.
It is interesting to see that it is still allowed at one copy. I think the big thing keeping it at one and not banned is the fact that Darkness Dragon World isn't exactly known for its toolboxing. You know, if you could search it easily, that'd be a whole nother story.
Banquet of the Unrighteous.
Yeah, Banquet could do it from the top 3, though. That's still luck-based.
Yes, this is true. But then you also have the Rebirth Impact 2 that you could use as long as it survives the turn.
All right, so we've talked about all the cards on the list. I think they're mostly fair and reasonable. I feel bad for Katana players, but that's about it, you know? I do miss my boy Obstruct. He'll come back someday, you know? What about you? Do you think list good, bad?
I'm fine with it. It doesn't affect me in any way, as long as it doesn't hit any of the worlds that I plan on playing for Springfest. So, yeah, Jacob, why don't you talk about it? You talk about it.
You talk about it?
Yeah. I brought up all of the 3.
Okay, so I'd like to share that Saber Knight 1993 has sent us a whole $9.99. Keeping with that $9.99, thanks. Appreciate. Didn't leave us a message this time though, so that's sad.
So does that mean you take hot sauce?
Not today. I am not.
Maybe it will help with the sickness that you have. You know, burn it right out of you. And yes, the Lucario Knight. It's looking pretty good for that Atlanta.
So the next thing I'd like to point out, what do you think should have been on this list that wasn't? Or, in other words, what will be on the next list?
I think you're a little bit better at this, you know. Why don't you give me your thoughts first?
All right, here's one card suggestion, because I'm thinking of cards that are really good and will get better with age, right?
Right.
Future-proof stuff. I think one card in particular I think will end up on the list at some point. I'm not sure if it's going to be the next list or 10 lists after. Will be the original Overturn Miseria.
I don't see it.
Because of the reset skill. I'm sure, you know, like burn decks and stuff would be able to take advantage of it. I don't know exactly what would, but I guarantee at some point it's going to be on the list.
I still don't see it because, to my knowledge, I don't think it's going to affect Curse Dragons anything because the flag is, in a sense, banished, quote unquote, since it's underneath the flag and the flag's not part of your field. So it's going to be hard to see if that does anything with it there. It is a fantastic skill, but that also requires either Thunder Empire Fang, Dungeon World, and Legend World to go super OP and want to reset the game state and kind of restart the game with lower life or anything like that. So that's why I don't see it, but to each their own. To each their own.
Can you think of any?
Let's see here. Anything? I think Gambit's gonna finally get banned at some point. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, probably. I'll be sad to see it go, but it wouldn't be unwarranted.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that could potentially get hit?
Well, here's a thought.
Well, here, before you go on with your thought, this is my theory of Ace. I don't think anything while we're in Ace that comes out in Ace is going to get hit ever. That's why I wasn't surprised that Dimension Dragons didn't get hit. Once Ace is over, everything's up for grabs.
It's interesting because I was about to talk about the same exact thing. Specifically in the idea being that, are there cards getting better for future proofing or worse? Because a lot of the cards that are on the list are either too relevant X stuff, right, that shouldn't be on the list anymore, honestly. Like Chaos stuff and Thunder Empire stuff, they can start moving out the list, in my opinion.
So you want Thunder Empire Fang to have 4 loud voice?
Maybe. I mean, at this point, there are other cards just as good as it. I think they should experiment a little more with that. Like Tamanotion got taken off. I think they should play around a little bit more with it. Worst comes to worst, something gets broken, they can throw it back on the list. I also do notice that, don't quote me on this, please, but there's literally nothing on the list from Ace, right?
Yeah, nothing.
Unless the only one I'm not sure about is Black Sage Burn. I don't know when that came out.
That was X.
Okay. Because I think every single card is X or earlier. Everything. Nothing from Ace. And I think partially that's on the fact that they've done a better job at balancing between the different decks. So, like, last season, the Irregulars list was created because Chaos and Thunder Empire were so oppressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
This time, everything's oppressive.
Oh, I was wrong. Beam was triple D. I know it wasn't more of the dual world D things. Thanks, Roxas. Continue.
I think that's going to change pretty soon. After Springfest starts up and we really get to see the English format of the game, because even if the format was exactly 100% the same between Japanese and English, there's definitely a difference of how people like to play the game between Japanese and English players. You see this in other card games too. For instance, Yu-Gi-Oh! I say Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's the only one I know with like those being the two big formats, English and Japanese, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Japanese deck lists tend to be a lot different, as Japanese players don't focus nearly as much on draw power than English players do. It's just part of how the game goes there. I think that's somewhat true for Buddy Fight too. I think you see a lot more 1-of and 2-of cards in Japan, and a lot more experimentation with weird out there strategies. And some things that have gotten absolutely like really, really good in Japan never saw any success here. A lot of the like weird Ein variants and stuff do very well there, and then never ever make a play here.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. Then again, you had so much fun when I got excited about a certain systemic dagger deck back when Gambit was at 4.
If the Irregulars list had existed then, I'm sure Systemic would have been on it.
Maybe. But, yeah, I can't really think of anything else that might have the potential, but it really just depends on what we get for future cards to see if Gambit gets hit. I still don't agree with you with Overturn Rosaria, but that's my own opinion.
I wish I could think of other cards that will be on the list in the future.
That could, you mean? Not necessarily will.
I know Miseria will be.
And I
only
disagree.
card I'm certain of. Do you think some point the other Menja will get hit? Just cause?
I don't think so.
There's gonna be some crazy stupid strategy that somehow breaks it.
Yes, they're gonna move Executioner stuff into Hero World so that it could work.
So yeah, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. If you guys come up with ideas of potential future cards that could get hit, let us know in our Discord. Otherwise, let us know if you disagree with Jacob's points, or mine, we can talk it out, or you can just yell at us, or yell at me if you want. I'm cool with that. Always, yeah, that's all I got. Anything else from you?
I have one thing. I'd just like to say, fan card live stream tomorrow, guys. Check it out. We'll be reviewing fan cards that have been submitted to us to talk about, people's own archetypes or maybe legacy support for decks they like. I have not looked at what's been submitted to us at all. If you want to get in on that and you don't know how, join our Discord, and in the fan cards channel, there is a Google form to fill out. So if
you might want to pin that one or something.
Yeah, you got 24 hours to do so.
Fair enough. So with that, like we said about twice now, join our Discord. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on the fan card live stream or any other time we do a live stream or put out content. Follow us on Instagram. You know what? Keep it classy, y'all.
Thanks for listening to TCG Buzz. New episodes can be found on tcgbuzz.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. For box openings, deck profiles, and more, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.